Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Imagine being able to bring back anyone who's ever died, your family, your friends, even yourself. Today, we're diving into the story of a Marvel villain who did exactly that, but at a terrible cost. We're exploring the twisted tale of the Jackal, the man who turned cloning into an art of revenge.
And not just any cloning, we're talking about one of the most controversial and complex villains in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery.
Let's start at the beginning. Who exactly was the man behind the Jackal?
Well, Miles Warren first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man Nup 31 back in 1965 as a professor at Empire State University. But here's where it gets interesting. He wasn't always the villain we know today.
Oh, really? What changed?
Well, it's actually pretty dark. Warren developed an unhealthy obsession with one of his students, Gwen Stacy, who was Peter Parker's girlfriend at the time.
Wait, his student? That's really creepy.
Yeah, and it gets worse. After Gwen was killed by the Green Goblin, Warren completely lost it. He blamed Spider-Man for her death and became consumed by the idea of bringing her back.
So that's what led to all the cloning?
Exactly. But you know what's fascinating? Warren actually had experience with genetic manipulation before all this. He studied under the High Evolutionary at Wundagore Mountain, working on evolving animals into human form.
Hold up, the High Evolutionary? That's a pretty big name to have on your resume.
Right? And he was actually successful too. He created two new men who looked almost completely human. But there was tragedy there as well.
What happened?
One of his creations, a Jackal Man, became jealous of Warren's life and caused an accident that killed Warren's wife and children. This was really the first crack in his sanity.
Wow. That's actually tragic.
And it explains a lot about his later obsession with trying to conquer death through science. But instead of processing his grief, he just buried it.
Until Gwen's death triggered it all again?
Exactly. And that's when he created the Jackal persona. He trained in martial arts, created this green suit with razor claws, and even gave himself superhuman abilities by mixing his genes with those of a jackal.
But he wasn't content just being a physical threat, was he?
No, his real impact came from his mastery of cloning technology. He created clones of Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy, and even himself.
And this led to some pretty major storylines, right?
Oh yeah, the Clone Saga in the mid-90s was huge. It introduced characters like Ben Reilly and Kane Parker, who became important heroes in their own right.
You know what's interesting? IGN ranked him as Spider-Man's 17th greatest enemy in 2014. That seems kind of low given his impact.
I think that ranking really underestimates his significance. The Jackal fundamentally changed Spider-Man's world in ways few villains have.
How so?
Well, think about it. Most villains just try to kill Spider-Man or rob banks. The Jackal made Peter question his very identity. Is he the real Peter Parker? Are his memories his own?
That's psychological warfare on a whole different level.
And it didn't stop there. He went on to create major events like Spider Island and the Clone Conspiracy, where he tried to use his cloning technology on a massive scale.
You mentioned Ben Reilly earlier. He actually became the second Jackal, right?
Yeah, during the Clone Conspiracy storyline. It's kind of ironic, one of Warren's creations taking on his mantle.
You know what strikes me about the Jackal? He's kind of a dark mirror of Peter Parker himself.
That's such a good observation. They're both brilliant scientists who loved Gwen Stacy, but they processed their grief in completely different ways.
Right? Peter moved forward, while Warren just couldn't let go.
And that's what makes him such a compelling villain. His motivations are deeply human, even if his actions are monstrous.
But let's be honest, there's something extra disturbing about his obsession with Gwen, given that he was her professor.
Absolutely. It adds this layer of predatory behavior that makes him uniquely unsettling among Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery.
And it got even darker in some versions, right?
Yeah, in the Spider-Gwen storyline, his actions became more explicitly predatory. It's like they took the subtext and made it text.
That's pretty heavy stuff for a comic book.
It is, but I think it shows how comics have evolved to tackle more serious themes. The Jackal isn't just a cackling supervillain, he represents real-world horrors.
Let's talk about his actual powers. He wasn't always superhuman, was he?
No, initially he just had his genius intellect and martial arts training. The superhuman abilities came later when he mixed his genes with a Jackal's DNA.
So he basically experimented on himself, too?
Yeah, which really shows his dedication to his twisted science. He was willing to be his own test subject.
That's some commitment to the bit.
And it gave him enhanced strength, speed, agility, and durability. Plus those razor-sharp claws he added to his costume.
But his real power was always his mind, right?
Absolutely. His genius-level intellect and mastery of genetics and biochemistry made him truly dangerous. The physical enhancements were just a bonus.
It's interesting how he went from being one of Spider-Man's less popular villains to becoming such a major threat.
That's what happens when you create storylines that fundamentally shake up a hero's world. The Clone Saga might be controversial, but it changed Spider-Man forever.
And he's still causing trouble today, right?
Oh yeah, he's appeared in recent comics, animated series, and video games. His legacy of cloning and genetic manipulation continues to impact the Marvel Universe.
You know what's fascinating? He started as this relatively simple villain, but he's become this symbol of scientific ethics gone wrong.
Exactly. He raises questions about the limits of science, the nature of identity, and the dangers of obsession.
And grief too, right? Like what happens when you can't let go?
That's really the heart of his character. He's a cautionary tale about how grief can twist someone if they don't process it properly.
It's pretty heavy stuff for a guy in a green costume with claws.
That's what makes comic book villains so great. They can explore these deep themes while still giving us the spectacle of superhero action.
So what's the Jackal's ultimate legacy in the Marvel Universe?
I'd say he represents the dark side of scientific progress. The idea that just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
And he's still out there, still causing trouble.
Which is what makes him such an enduring villain. As long as there's the temptation to play God with science, the Jackal will always be relevant.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, folks, if your professor starts experimenting with cloning technology, maybe transfer to a different class.
And definitely don't let them take your DNA samples.